Take me on your horse and I'll give you something no woman can give you, Apache woman begged. The sun was dropping low when the man guided his horse through the dry land. The sky was wide and quiet, painted with dull orange light. Dust rose under the horse's slow steps. He had been riding since morning, alone as always. He preferred it that way. No voices, no promises, just the road, the horse, and the steady pull of moving forward. His name did not matter much anymore. People rarely asked and he rarely answered. He had learned that names brought attachment and attachment brought loss. He had lost enough in his life to know better. The land around him was rough. Broken rocks, sharp bushes, and empty stretches where nothing moved. This was not a place kind to weak people. He kept his eyes sharp and his hand close to his rifle, not because he expected trouble, but because trouble always found men who thought they were safe. As he crossed near a dry riverbed, the horse suddenly slowed. Its ears lifted. The man felt it too, a sound that did not belong to the wind, a voice. It was faint, almost carried away by the air, but it was there. A cry, not loud but full of fear. He stopped the horse. The man listened. For a moment everything was still again. He almost thought he imagined it. Then he heard it once more. A woman's voice, weak, urgent. He frowned. People did not wander alone out here without reason. And a woman alone in this land meant danger either to her or to anyone who came near. He considered riding on. That would have been the smart choice. He had learned to walk away from trouble. Trouble had a way of sticking to people who tried to be heroes. But the voice came again, closer this time, filled with pain. The man sighed and guided the horse toward the riverbed. Down below, near the shadow of rocks, he saw her. She was crouched low, one hand pressed against her side. Her clothes were torn and dusty. Dark hair fell loose around her face. Her skin was marked with dirt and dried blood. She looked up when she heard the horse, her eyes wide and sharp despite her weakness. She was Apache. That much was clear from her clothing and the way she held herself, even while injured. The man stopped a few steps away. He did not dismount. For a long moment they only stared at each other. She looked afraid but not helpless. There was pride in her eyes mixed with fear and pain. She did not beg at first. She studied him, measuring his strength, his mood, his intent. Then she spoke, her voice low but clear. "Please," she said, "do not leave me here." The man tightened his grip on the reins. He scanned the land behind her, tracks, fresh ones, many. Someone was hunting her. "I can't help you," he said simply. "You should go back to your people." Her lips pressed together. "I cannot." He glanced at her wound. It was not small. Blood had soaked the cloth she tried to hold against it. "If I stay," he said, "whoever is chasing you will come for me too." She lifted her chin. "They are close. You already waited too long." That was true. He could feel it now, the sense of being watched, the tension in the air. He should have left earlier. She swallowed and took a breath. "Take me on your horse," she said. "Please." He shook his head. "I ride alone." Her voice trembled, but she forced the words out. "If you help me, I will give you something no woman can give." The words surprised him. He frowned, confused more than tempted. "I don't want anything," he said, "and I don't make deals like that." She met his eyes. "Not what you think," she said quickly. "I give no lies. I offer truth, loyalty, a life bound by choice, not fear." He stared at her, unsure what to say. Before he could answer, a sound cracked through the air, a sharp echo, a gunshot. The horse jumped. The man cursed under his breath. Another shot followed, closer this time. The woman flinched but did not scream. She only looked at him, waiting. The man had a choice: ride away now and escape alone, or take her with him and carry her danger on his back. He swore again, this time louder. "Get up," he said. Relief flashed across her face, but she did not smile. She tried to stand and failed, nearly collapsing. He dismounted quickly and caught her before she hit the ground. She was lighter than she looked, her body weak from blood loss. "Lean on me," he said. She did, her hand gripping his sleeve tightly. More shots rang out. He did not wait any more. He lifted her onto the horse, settling her carefully in front of the saddle. She winced but stayed quiet. He swung up behind her and kicked the horse into motion. They rode hard. Bullets struck rocks behind them. Shouts echoed in the distance. The man guided the horse through narrow paths, pushing it faster than he liked. The woman clung to the saddle horn, her breathing shallow. The land blurred as they raced forward. The man did not look back. He trusted the horse and his own sense of direction. After a long, painful stretch, the sounds faded. The shouts disappeared into silence. Only when the horse began to slow did the man allow himself to breathe again. He guided them into a narrow canyon where the rocks rose high on both sides. Shadows covered them, hiding them from the open land. He stopped and dismounted, steadying the woman as she slid down. She nearly collapsed again, and this time he had to support most of her weight. They moved deeper into the canyon until they found a small overhang that offered some cover. He helped her sit against the rock. She closed her eyes, breathing hard. For a moment, neither spoke. "You could have left," she said finally. He shrugged. "I didn't." She opened her eyes and looked at him. "You did not even ask my name." "Names don't change much," he replied. A weak smile touched her lips. "Maybe, but they remind us who we are." He took out his water and offered it to her. She drank slowly. "My name is Iana," she said. "It means strength." He nodded once. She studied him. "You are not like the others." "That's what trouble always says," he replied. Despite herself, she let out a quiet breath that might have been a laugh. Pain creased her face again, and she pressed her hand to her side. He crouched beside her and examined the wound. "You lost a lot of blood." "I will live," she said, though her voice wavered. "You will if we keep moving," he said. She looked up at him. "You saved my life." "Not yet," he said. "We're not safe." She hesitated, then spoke softly. "I meant what I said. I do not offer empty words." He stood and looked out toward the canyon entrance. The sun was almost gone now. "I didn't save you for a reward," he said. "I saved you because I couldn't ride past." "That is why it matters," she replied. He did not answer. As night settled around them, the man realized something had already changed. He had chosen a path he could not easily leave. The road ahead was no longer his alone. And somewhere deep inside, a part of him he thought was long dead had begun to stir. The night grew quiet after the last light faded from the sky. The canyon felt colder now, and shadows pressed close around them. The man kept his rifle near, his eyes scanning the narrow opening while the horse shifted restlessly behind him. He did not trust silence. Silence often meant waiting. Gianna leaned against the rock, her breathing slow but uneven. Pain showed on her face, yet she did not complain. That impressed him more than words ever could. He tore a strip from his spare cloth and knelt beside her again. "This will hurt," he said. "I know," she replied calmly. He cleaned the wound as best he could with water, working carefully. She clenched her jaw but did not cry out. When his hands brushed her skin, she stiffened, then relaxed when she realized his touch carried no harm. "You've done this before," she said. He nodded. "Enough times." When he finished tying the cloth, he leaned back on his heels. "We can't stay here long. They'll search the canyon." She nodded slowly. "They are patient and angry." "Who are they?" he asked. She hesitated, then answered. "Men who wear uniforms but do not follow honor. And some from my own people who obey fear." He studied her face. "You ran from your own people." "I ran from lies," she said, "and from orders that would stain my spirit." He did not press her further. Everyone carried a past. Pushing too hard only made people shut down. They rested for a while. The horse grazed quietly on sparse grass. The man watched the stars appear one by one. He had slept under many skies, but tonight felt different. He was not alone by choice anymore. When Ayana tried to stand, her legs shook. "Slow," he said, steadying her arm. "I can ride," she insisted. "You can sit," he corrected. They mounted again, her settled carefully in front. This time the ride was slower, quieter. The man avoided open ground, choosing narrow paths and rocky trails. The moon rose high, lighting the land just enough to guide them. Hours passed like that. No shots, no voices, but he knew better than to believe they were free. Near dawn, they reached a cluster of trees hidden between low hills. A small stream ran nearby, thin but clear. "We stop here," he said. He helped her down and guided the horse to water. Then he gathered wood and started a small fire, keeping it low and hidden. Gianna watched him with thoughtful eyes. "You move like someone who expects the world to turn on him." He smiled faintly. "It usually does." She warmed her hands near the fire. "You saved me without knowing who I was." "I knew enough," he said. "You were hurt, and you didn't lie." She tilted her head. "How could you know that?" "Liars talk too much," he replied. "You only said what mattered." She considered that. "You are different from the men I have met." "That's not always a good thing," he said. As the sky lightened, her strength faded again. She leaned back, eyes closing. He knelt beside her. "Sleep. I'll keep watch." "You should rest too," she murmured. "I will," he lied. She slept for a short time. When she woke, her eyes found him immediately. "You stayed," she said quietly. He shrugged. "I said I would." She reached into a small pouch at her side and pulled out a thin woven band. "This belonged to my mother." He shook his head. "I don't take keepsakes." "It is not payment," she said. "It is a promise. It means I walk beside you, not behind." He hesitated, then accepted it, tying it around his wrist. They moved again once the sun rose higher. The land ahead opened into plains dotted with distant hills. The man frowned. "This area's risky," he said. "Too visible." Yana nodded. "There is an old path to the east. Few use it now." He studied her. "You know this land well." "It knows me," she replied. They followed her guidance, and the path proved true. It curved through low ground and tall grass, hiding their trail. As they rode, she spoke more. Not long stories, just pieces. She told him she had refused to guide men who wanted to burn villages and take children. She had been called a traitor for choosing mercy. "You could have stayed silent," he said. "I would not live with that," she answered. He respected that. By afternoon, the horse grew tired. So did they. The man spotted an old cabin near a stand of trees. It leaned to one side but offered shelter. Inside, dust covered everything, but the roof still held. He helped her sit on a rough bed frame. "I can walk," she said again. "You can rest," he replied again. He checked her wound. It looked better than before, but she was still weak. As evening came, voices echoed faintly outside. The man froze. Yana's eyes widened. "They are close." He put a finger to his lips and moved to the door, peering through a crack. 3 riders passed nearby, scanning the land. His heart pounded, but he stayed still. After a tense wait, the riders moved on. Yana exhaled slowly. "You could still leave." He turned to her. "And do what? Pretend I didn't hear them?" She searched his face. "Why do you stay?" He thought for a long moment. "Because if I leave now, I won't recognize myself tomorrow." Her eyes softened. Night fell again. The danger had not passed, but something stronger had formed between them. They were no longer strangers bound by chance. They were companions by choice. And neither of them knew yet how much that choice would change everything. Morning came slowly, bringing a thin gray light through the broken window of the old cabin. The man had not slept much. He sat on a chair near the door, listening to the sounds outside. Birds called from the trees. The wind moved softly through the grass. Everything seemed calm, but he knew calm could be false. Yana lay on the bed frame, wrapped in a blanket he had found in the corner. Her face looked pale in the morning light, but her breathing was steady. He felt some relief seeing that. Still, he knew her strength was far from fully returned. He rose quietly and stepped outside. He checked the ground for tracks. The earth was hard, but there were signs, faint marks from hooves not far away. Whoever was hunting them had passed through during the night. He returned inside, his jaw tight. Iana opened her eyes when she heard his steps. "They were here," she said softly. "Yes," he answered, "but not close enough." She pushed herself up slightly and winced. He moved to her side at once. "Don't rush," he said. "I need to move," she replied. "If I slow you, I become a danger." "You're not a danger," he said firmly. "You're a responsibility, and I chose that." She looked at him for a long moment. "You speak as if choice is rare." "For some of us it is," he replied. He brought her water and a little food. She ate slowly, forcing herself to take enough to keep going. When she tried to stand again, she swayed, but this time she did not fall. "Better," she said, almost surprised. He nodded. "Still not ready to run." She managed a faint smile. "I was never good at running." They stayed inside until the sun climbed higher. The man repaired the door as best he could and planned their next move. Staying here was no longer safe. The riders would return once they realized their trail had gone quiet. "We head north," he said. "There's rough land, fewer people," Jana agreed. "There is also a crossing near the hills. Few know it." They packed what little they could carry and left the cabin behind. The horse seemed grateful to move again, stepping forward with renewed energy. As they rode, the land changed. Trees grew closer together and the ground rose gently. The man relaxed only slightly. He trusted movement more than rest. Yana sat straighter now, though pain still showed in her eyes. She spoke more during the ride, telling him about her childhood, about learning to read signs in the dirt, about listening to elders speak of balance and respect. She spoke of her mother who had taught her that strength was not loud and courage was not cruel. "You live by those words," he said. She nodded. "I try, even when it costs me." He glanced at her. "It cost you everything." "Not everything," she replied. "I am still alive. And I still choose." Her words stayed with him. They stopped near midday to rest. He helped her down and she surprised him by standing on her own. "I told you," she said, a hint of pride in her voice. "I see that," he replied. While she rested, he checked the area. No signs of pursuit nearby. Still, he felt watched. The feeling sat heavy in his chest. When they moved again, clouds gathered in the sky. The air grew thick and the wind shifted. Iana looked up. "Storm is coming." "Good," he said. "It will hide our trail." Rain began as they reached the hills. It came down fast, soaking the ground and washing away tracks. The man guided the horse carefully along the rocky path. Thunder rolled above them. The horse grew nervous, but he calmed it with steady words. They found shelter under a large rock formation just as the rain grew heavier. Water streamed down the stone walls, but they stayed dry. They waited there as the storm passed. Time slowed. With nothing to do but listen to the rain, silence settled between them. Gianna spoke first. "Why do you ride alone?" He did not answer right away. Then he said, "Because everyone I stayed with once I lost." She waited. "My family, my home, all gone. After that it was easier to leave before anyone could matter." She nodded gently. "Pain teaches us strange lessons." "What lesson did it teach you?" he asked. She thought. "That I could not live as someone I was not, even if it meant walking alone." He looked at her then, really looked at her, and saw how alike they were in that way. The rain slowed, then stopped. The world smelled fresh and clean, as if washed of old sins. They continued on. By evening the hills opened into a wide valley. Smoke rose in the distance. "Settlement," he said. Yana tensed. "People bring questions." "And supplies," he replied. They approached carefully. It was a small place, barely more than a few buildings. The man kept his head low and his hand near his rifle. He found a stable and arranged for the horse to rest. Inside a quiet building, he found a woman who knew how to treat wounds. He stayed nearby while Iana was examined. "She needs rest," the woman said. "And time." Time was the one thing they did not have. That night, as they stayed in a small room, the man heard voices outside. He moved to the window and saw riders entering the settlement. His blood ran cold. "They're here," he whispered. Yana sat up, fear flashing in her eyes. "Then it is over." "No," he said. "Not yet," he thought fast. Leaving now would draw attention. Staying meant hiding in plain sight. He wrapped Ayana in a cloak and guided her through the back of the building, moving quietly between shadows. The storm had helped. The ground was muddy, and people moved slowly. They reached the edge of the settlement and slipped into the dark fields beyond. Yana stumbled and he caught her. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Don't be," he said. "You're doing more than enough." They pushed on until their lungs burned. Finally, they reached a narrow ravine where the land dropped suddenly. He led them down into it, out of sight. They rested there, pressed close to the earth. Voices passed above them but did not stop. When silence returned, the man let out a long breath. Iana looked at him, eyes shining with emotion. "You risk everything for me," he answered honestly. "I risk everything for who I am when I'm with you." She reached out and took his hand, not as a plea, but as an understanding. In that quiet ravine, with danger still close and the future uncertain, the man knew one thing for sure. He was no longer running from his past. He was riding toward something new. The ravine stayed quiet long after the voices faded. The man did not move right away. He listened, counting his breaths, feeling the earth beneath his hands. Only when the night sounds returned did he slowly lift his head. Yana was beside him, her face close, her eyes open. She had not slept. "They will keep searching," she said softly. "Yes," he replied, "but now they're frustrated. That makes people careless." They climbed out of the ravine once the moon rose higher. The land beyond was rough, full of broken stone and low bushes. Hard to travel, easy to hide. They moved slowly, careful with every step. Iana leaned on him more now. The long run had taken much from her. He did not complain. Her weight against him felt like a promise he had already accepted. Before dawn, they reached a narrow cave hidden by brush. It was shallow but dry, with space enough for them and the horse outside. "This will do," he said. Inside, he helped her sit and checked her wound again. It was healing, but she was exhausted. He gave her water and let her rest. "You should leave me," she said suddenly, her voice low. He looked at her, surprised. "Why would you say that?" "Because they want me," she answered, "and they will not stop. If you ride alone, you will disappear into the land. If you stay, they will follow you until one of us falls." He considered her words carefully. Then he shook his head. "If I leave you now, I lose something I can't get back." "What?" she asked. "Myself," he said simply. She closed her eyes, holding back emotion. When the sun rose, they planned their next move. Going farther north would mean crossing open ground, dangerous but necessary. "There is a high ridge," Yana said. "If we reach it, we can see who follows us. And there is a narrow pass beyond." He nodded. "We take it." They left the cave and moved carefully toward the ridge. The climb was slow. Iana struggled but refused to stop. He supported her when needed, never rushing, never letting her feel weak. By midday, they reached the top. The view was wide and clear. The man scanned the land behind them. After a long moment, he saw movement. Riders, 3 of them. "They're still coming," he said. Yana's shoulders tightened. "They will catch us in open land." "Not if we don't give them a straight path," he replied. They moved along the ridge, keeping low. The riders below followed, but slower now, unsure of the terrain. As they reached the narrow pass, one rider shouted. A shot echoed, striking stone nearby. The man pushed Iana forward. "Go, stay low." They entered the pass just as another shot rang out. The path was tight, forcing the riders to slow and spread out. Inside the pass, the man turned suddenly and fired back, not to hit, but to warn. The echo thundered, confusing their pursuers. They moved deeper, the stone walls closing in. The riders shouted again, but their voices sounded unsure now. Near the end of the pass, one rider tried to rush ahead. He slipped on loose rock and fell hard, blocking the way. The others stopped, arguing. The man did not wait. He guided Iana through the final stretch and out into broken land filled with sharp stone and uneven ground. They kept moving until the shouts faded. Finally, they stopped near a cluster of trees. Both were breathing hard. Iana sank to the ground. "I can't go farther," she said honestly. He knelt beside her. "You don't have to, we've bought time." He gathered wood and made a small fire hidden by rocks. As the flames flickered, he looked at her and saw more than pain. He saw strength, resolve. "Choice, you saved me back there," she said. "We saved each other," he replied. She looked into the fire. "Where I come from, bonds are not taken lightly." "I know," he said. She turned to him. "What happens when this is over?" He thought of the road behind him, of empty nights and endless riding. "I don't go back to being alone," he said. "Not anymore." Her eyes filled, but she did not look away. Night fell again, but this time it felt different. Not like a threat, but like a shield. They rested close to the fire, sharing warmth. No words were needed. Far away, the riders searched, but the land no longer guided them. The man watched the stars and felt something settle inside him, a quiet certainty. The choice he had made was not easy, but it was right. And whatever came next, he would face it beside her. The morning light came gently, spreading across the land like a quiet promise. The fire had burned low, leaving only warm embers. The man woke first, as he always did. He listened for danger, but the world answered with calm sounds: birds, wind, and the slow breath of the earth. Iana still slept, her face peaceful for the first time since he had met her. The pain had not left her, but rest had given her strength. He watched her for a moment, realizing how far they had come from that dry riverbed. When she woke, she sat up on her own. It was slow but steady. "You're stronger today," he said. She nodded. "Because I am no longer afraid of what comes next." They ate what little food they had left and planned their final move. The land ahead led to a wide valley with scattered farms and old trading routes. Once there, the riders would lose their advantage. Too many paths, too many people. "This is where we disappear," he said. Yana smiled softly. "Or where we begin." They traveled through the trees, keeping to shadows. The horse moved calmly now, as if it too sensed the change. By midday, they reached the edge of the valley. The man stopped and looked back one last time. The hills stood quiet. No movement, no dust. "They're gone," he said. "They gave up," Yana replied, "or the land turned against them." "Either way," he said, "we're free." They rode into the valley openly for the first time in days. The sun felt warmer here. The air felt lighter. People worked fields in the distance, unaware of how close danger had once been. They found a small homestead owned by an older couple who asked few questions and offered help freely. Yana was given a clean place to rest. Her wound was checked again, and this time the answer was better. "She will heal," the woman said, "with care." Care was something the man was finally ready to give. Days passed, then weeks. Yana's strength returned slowly but fully. She walked on her own again, her steps steady. She helped with small tasks, learning new ways while sharing her own knowledge of the land. People came to respect her, not for who she had been running from, but for who she was. The man stayed too. At first he thought it would be temporary, but each morning he woke with purpose. Each night he rested without fear. One evening they stood at the edge of the fields, watching the sky change colors. "You could still leave," Yana said quietly. "The road will always call to you." He shook his head. "It doesn't call anymore." She studied him. "And if danger finds us again, then we face it," he said. "Together." She reached for his hand, and this time he did not hesitate. They did not speak of promises in loud words. They did not need to. Their bond had been forged through choice, risk, and trust, stronger than fear, stronger than the past. Months later the man rode again, but not alone. Yana rode beside him, strong and steady. They traveled not to escape, but to see, to trade, to learn. Wherever they went, people noticed them. Not because they were loud or powerful, but because they moved with purpose and respect. One night, as they rested under the stars, Ayana spoke softly. "When I begged you to take me on your horse," she said, "I did not know if you would listen." "I almost didn't," he admitted. "But you did," she said, "and I gave you what I promised." He looked at her. "You gave me more than I ever thought I'd have." The fire crackled between them. The land stretched wide and open ahead. They were no longer running. They were riding forward together, into a future they had chosen with their own hands.